Hey, welcome back to Turntable Guy. On the bench today we have a Rega Planner 3, and this video will cover many other Regas from the P1 all the way up to the P6. They are basically the same design. Pretty much all the Regas are the same design, the difference being the quality of the arm, and some of the higher models have a thicker plinth. And the very base model, one model, will have a very cheap plastic platter, whereas the higher end Regas will have a glass platter like this. And I believe if you get into the even higher models, you get some more exotic materials as far as the platter and obviously the arm. Most Rega turntables are pretty simple as far as design. You have a motor spinning the platter, and the arm is mounted off to the side like any other turntable, but the difference being the quality of the arm. And I guess that's what you're paying for when you buy one of these, because you're certainly not paying for the plinth. Most of the plinths that they make are super lightweight, and that is the theory behind their design. You do not get a suspended turntable. The feet will look after any vibrations, and pretty much all the dust covers are the same. Now, you can watch some interesting videos online about their factory, and there's I think a 3-part series on there. I'll see if I can find it. Maybe I'll link it. You can see how their factory in Great Britain works, and I believe the owner, is it Roy Gandy or something? He actually conducts a tour, and he takes it through the various different areas of the factory. It's kind of fascinating, actually. You get to see all the technicians working on arms and bearings, and they actually make the different turntables in different parts of the factory. So I'll see if I can locate that one, and I'll link it through. I usually don't like to link other channels, but that one's kind of fascinating. Or you can just search like a Rega factory tour to have a look. Still one of the bigger manufacturers in Great Britain that hasn't been purchased out by a Chinese company. But anyway, this video here is going to cover how you service a Rega turntable, because basically they're all pretty much the same. This is a Planner 3, so I think this is a little bit of an older model. I think they've rebadged them as P3 now, and usually you can tell the difference by the switch being on the top, or on the newer models, I believe it's on the bottom. I know when I had a P1, the switch was on the bottom. And I think this is an RB300 arm, if I'm correct. I believe so. I'll check that later. I'm not sure if it is. It should be. I think that's what came on these. I think the newer ones have a 330 now. So it's probably got some upgraded bearings and so forth. So when you get one of these, it does have a specific lubricant that you're supposed to use. And just to give you an idea what I use, which is basically what Rega uses from the factory. So you got a couple choices here. So this is these are a couple of gear oils that I keep in stock. This one is actually a 75 W90 synthetic gear oil, manufactured by Shell. I think the official oil is Shell Spirax. There's other models too. You need a hypoid gear oil. This is not synthetic. This is just standard mineral. It's very thick oil, and it's very, very stinky. So that's what you need to use on a Rega bearing. I get a lot of questions from people, oops, sorry about that, about, what oil did you use for that? What did you spray in there? I'm not answering those questions anymore, because usually when I do a video, I show you the bottle of oil that I use. Like if I'm doing a bearing on like a Japanese turntable, I show you I'm using 3-in-1 oil. If you're skipping around on the video, that's your problem. I am no longer going to answer those questions. Watch the video, okay? If I'm using deoxit, I usually say I'm spraying deoxit. If I'm spraying Neutral, I usually say I'm spraying Neutral. So just keep an eye on the video. I don't have time to answer those kind of questions anymore. Okay, so the Rega comes in. What we're going to do, obviously, especially on a table like this, I like to give it a cleaning as well because they're very simple to clean, and this one's kind of gross. I'm not going to do that on camera, obviously, but what I usually do is once I remove everything out of here, I spray down the plinth with a light glass cleaner or just some kind of detergent. Just wipe that down. It has a shiny finish. I might even do a light wax job. It keeps a nice shine, and fingerprints kind of will come out a lot easier when you get that down. This one's got a fairly heavy wool mat, which is the better quality Rega mat. That's what they believe is the best mat for their turntables. And this one's got the big, heavy, you can see here, glass platter. So that's what you'll get on the P3 and up. The P2 has a glass platter. It's a little bit thinner. And like I mentioned, the P1 will come with some kind of cheap plastic mat. So this will get Windexed and polished up nicely. Alrighty, so this is the guts of a Rega turntable. There's very little to them. Yeah, this is an older table because it's got the suspended motor. This is the better design. The newer Regas have a newer motor, a 24-volt motor, and they are stuck to the plinth, literally stuck by two-way tape. And I find that inferior. The reason being is the motor, as it vibrates, I find it does create sound that transmits through the plinth. The old suspended design, which is attached with a couple rubber bands basically, hangs off the plinth. And as you can see here, you can push on the pulley up and down. And this is a much quieter edition. I have no idea why they went to that new system by sticking the motor to the plinth. When I first purchased my P1, it was the noisiest piece of crap I've ever owned. The motor squeaked. It made rumbling noise through the plinth. It was terrible. I sold that table. No matter how many upgrades I did to it, it just never sounded right to me. So this is the standard P3 arrangement here. It's going to be the same with other Rega turntables. So this one has what I like to call the magic white belt. This is supposed to, according to Rega, improve sound, this piece of rubber. Now, I'm not going to say what I think of that. Obviously, just from the tone of my voice, you can understand what I think of that. If anything, perhaps this belt is a little bit looser than the standard black belt. As you can see, Regas tend to run their belts a little bit loose. So if you see this, it's perfectly normal. Unlike like a Japanese turntable, if this was a Japanese turntable with a large platter and the motor off to the side, how they do it, if this was the belt condition in that, I would throw this belt away. But this is a normal Rega belt, okay? And this is the magic white belt. So we're going to put that aside for now. Okay, now, here you go. This is our main sub platter. It's a composite sub platter. It does have the correct oil. You can smell it a mile away. This has gear oil in it. And it looks properly lubricated, but we are going to give this thing a service. He doesn't know the last time it was serviced. So basically, you just pull that out, put it aside for now. Okay. And then you've got what you've got. So that's a standard Rega bearing, bushing. There are upgrades for these turntables. You can get a different bearing, and you can get a different sub platter. There are metal sub platters. Companies like Tango Spinner make stuff like that. I did purchase that for my P1. I noticed no difference in sound quality, just so you know. There's nothing wrong with the standard Rega composite sub platter. It's perfectly fine, and you can be guaranteed that this axle here and that bushing are the proper specification as far as size. So if you want to upgrade, I mean that's something you can do. You're not going to hear any difference. I didn't anyway. Okay, so we're going to service that main bearing. It's really simple. There is a ball bearing in there, and it will come out. That's another thing you can do. When I purchased my Tango Spinner sub platter, it came with a ceramic ball, and it came with a clear belt, I believe it was. And again, I didn't notice any difference. How a ball bearing can change your sound quality is beyond me, especially on a cheap P1 where the motor is attached to the plinth. It's not happening. Maybe in this turntable, perhaps, maybe it might be a little better because the motor is suspended, which I do like. Okay, so the ball bearing's in there. To get that out, it's nothing particularly pretty. You can get the back side of a screwdriver, and you can just gently, be careful of your arm, of course. Did it already come out? Yeah, it already came out, so that's good. There it is. There's your standard metal bearing, ball bearing. And just put that aside somewhere safe. If you do happen to lose it, you can pick up ball bearings anywhere. It doesn't really matter. Or perhaps you can go for one of the magical ceramic or ruby or diamond bearings, whatever. You know, they are advertising as improvements. Okay, so once you get the ball bearing out, you'll be able to get a little bit deeper into the pit now. I just like to absorb as much oil as possible because the oil actually sticks the bearing to the bottom. So now you can get in there. And yeah, this oil needs to be changed. It's dirty. There's not a lot in here. The tolerances are pretty tight on this bearing. So what you want to do is you want to get as much of this out as possible, just with a dry Q-tip first. And now we'll clean it with some IPA. I don't know if the factory oil from Rega is synthetic or not, but I like to use a synthetic in here. I want to clean that really good. It's still rather dirty, as you can see. Clean the sides as well as you're doing this. And get the bottom, clean that all out, and I'm pretty satisfied with that. Okay, we'll give that a minute to dry. Should evaporate fairly quickly. We're just going to lubricate our motor. Just some standard light machine oil, okay? Nothing special. You can use whatever you have. The only thing I don't recommend, don't use car engine oil. You just want to use a light, non-detergent oil. And you just want to put a drop at the top of the motor bearing, right underneath the pulley shaft, okay? So one drop there, and that's it. I know that Rega doesn't recommend oiling the motor on the P1, but that motor was so noisy out of the box, and there's many threads about that, about them squeaking, because they're shipped on their side, and supposedly whatever lubricants are in the motor from the factory settle. And they say just to pull up and down on the pulley to redistribute the lubricants, but I prefer to put a drop there. I know that it's lubricated, and it should be good to go. All right, now we're just going to clean the axle right here, and we're going to clean that with a little bit of IPA as well, just on a paper towel. Get off any of the old oil here, just like that. Okay, at the same time, we're going to clean the actual subplatter itself, where the belt contacts, just like that, to ensure proper friction. And then we'll just run our belt through here as well. Just run the belt through there. Clean off the belt. You can see, a little dirty. And then it should be good to go. All right, so let's get our synthetic lubricant, and we're going to put a couple drops inside. 1, 2. We're going to drop our ball bearing back in. Okay. The Rega recommends 3 or 4 drops, so I like to put 1 on the side here and just let those kind of flow down the side. And then I like to just put a little bit of a smear on the axle itself here. And I don't care if I overfill it, because whatever I've overfilled will come out the top as the air bubbles push this down. So all you want to do is you want to grab this and just gently lower it back in, okay? Now it will take its time, because like I mentioned, the Rega bearing is very tight tolerance. So as the air gets pushed out of the bearing, the subplatter will go down, okay? Now if you spin it, you're really not doing anything. It's just going to sit there. So if you're in a rush, you can put your platter back on and allow it to gently come down, or you can give it a little push and then let go. It'll come back up. That's how tight the tolerances are here. It's a good bearing. So here's a glass platter. You put that on, and this will really force the bubbles out. And just let that sit for 5 or 10 minutes. You can look underneath, and you can actually see at the top of the bearing, you can see a little bubble of air every once in a while. And once that happens, the platter just goes boop, boop, it comes down. So just give that time to come down. Like I mentioned, the oil is thick, and it is very viscous, right? So you definitely want to give this time to come down. It's just about there. Another couple millimeters. And it already feels really smooth and really nice. Okay, so I'm just going to let that come down and sit, and then I'll put the belt back on. And while I'm gone, I'm going to give this plinth, this platter, a nice cleaning. I'm going to clean this arm too. Everything's really dirty on this turntable. So I'm going to do all that, and then I'll come back and we'll set up the arm and we'll do a quick listen test. That is the amount of filth that came off this plinth. So when I see this color, I'm thinking the turntable didn't stink, but it must have come from a smoker's home. Look what you're doing to your equipment. Can you imagine what you're doing to your lungs? Okay, soapbox over. Okay, next. One last thing before we set up the arm here. The arm was filthy too. A little IPA and a cotton swab again. Just clean the pulley here. Just make sure there's no dirt on the 45 and the 33 rungs here. Clean those off. And look at that. Filthy. So those are good and clean. Now you can put your belt back on. Your clean belt. Remember what I said, that a Rega belt will run loose. Where's the plug for that? Did he not bring me the... I don't think this guy brought me the power cord. Or did he? How is it? Oh, there it is. So the newer Regas, they have a power pack. These ones just, I like this better. You can just plug 120 right into the wall or wherever you are in the world, perhaps 240. Oops, belt came off. Try that again. There we go. Lovely. Okay. So we're just going to put our platter back on. So it's all nice and polished, nice and clean. Just grab it by, just like a record. Don't put your fingers all over it. It's glass. There. And we can put our wool mat back on. Okay, now we're going to set up our arm. We'll set it up for, this is an Ortofon 2M Blue. So I believe 1.75, 1.8 grams. We're just going to clean the stylus real quick. I did notice that it was a little dirty. Hang on, let me pull it out here. There's your 2M Blue. Yeah, this thing's caked in dirt. Don't forget, you need to clean your stylus. I mean, I like to do mine after each side of a record, but at the very minimum, give it a brushing after each record. It's the most important thing you can do. This is the only contact between your records and your turntable. That tiny little cantilever and the even tinier diamond on the end of it. If that's dirty, the diamond cannot read the groove. The sound does not get transmitted through the arm to your amplifier. You cannot hear what's on the record correctly. Clean your stylus. Okay, we'll put that back on. And we're going to see how accurate the Rega weight system is. So we're going to turn our tracking force to 0. And we're going to balance out our arm, just like any other turntable. There's no markings on the weight here. All you have to do is just get the weight in a position where the arm is floating. Make sure your cueing is down, and your anti-skate, which is a lovely feature that Rega decided to remove from many of its turntables a few years ago. I think 2016 they started removing that, which is just ridiculous. Okay, so move this weight at the back here till the arm floats. Just a smidge heavy. Okay, right there. Parallel, okay? Lock it back up. And let's turn this to 1.8. There's no markings here, so I'm gonna have to guess. So I'm gonna go halfway between the 1.5 and the 2, which is right about there. So we should be around 175, 180, anywhere from 170 to 180, I would say. Let's see how accurate we are. I find that the Regas are not very accurate, but knowing my luck now, I'm going to look like a fool. And it's heavy. That could be my balance was off a little bit. I mean, it's close, but it's not really close enough. So I'm going to say my balance was off and that this reading was good. I'm just going to back this off just a little bit here. Reset my weight scale. So 180. Okay, I'm good with that on 79. We'll leave it right there. And then we'll put our anti-skate between the 1 and the 2, roughly there. Okay? And that should be it. That's how you service your Rega. All right, one more thing I do want to check. If you have an Ortofon 2M series cartridge on here, it looks nice because it matches up with the top of the head shell, right? but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's the correct alignment for this turntable. So let me grab my Rega protractor. I'll be right back. Okay, the Rega protractor is on now. And step one is what you want to do is you want to bring the arm over and you want to level it up with the grid here. You're going to drop your stylus down. You want to put the tip of the stylus right on the X. And you want to have a look at your grid, okay? Is your cartridge aligned with the grid? Okay, I'm going to say yes, this one is pretty damn close. Next, you're going to want to pick up your arm gently and move it to C. Okay, does it line up with that X? Yes, it does, okay? And finally, you want to bring the arm back, and this is the, if you can see the line here, this is the proper arc for this Rega tone arm, okay? So you're going to want to bring this back to C1, and you can just follow that arc, see if you're following the arc correctly, and put it down on C1. And it is just an absolute, maybe less than a millimeter, a little too far forward. That's not enough for me to get excited about. I'm happy with this. There we go. There it is right there. We're still damn close. We're going to continue to follow that arc. Right on the money. Right on the money. That's close enough for me. I'm happy with that. It's not off by any means. It's pretty much dead balls on. So this arm is okay as far as cartridge alignment is concerned. All right, so what am I going to do? I am going to plug in our turntable here, and we shall hear what this thing sounds like. Now, here's something that bugs me. Not because these are not perfectly fine. They are perfectly fine. They're just a set of standard RCA cables. The newer P3s come with a nicer set, but as you can see, these are bargain basement cheap cables. Not that there's anything wrong with these. I'm sure they're perfectly shielded. They're perfectly fine. I'm not a cable guy. I don't believe in all that kind of mumbo jumbo. As long as the cable is terminated properly, connected properly, shielded properly, it should work fine. The signal's going to get from there to here without any issues, okay? It's just that for a table that costs this much money, I mean, back in the day, you still get these cables on the P1 and P2. They have upgraded the P3, but it's just a little nitpick of mine that they're putting bargain basement cables on an expensive turntable. All right. It seems like YouTube's copyright has been extremely aggressive on my last two videos. I had to use their own editor just to silence out some of the music. So if that's happening, I apologize, but unfortunately I don't have any records that are non-copyright, like the YouTube video library or whatever. So okay, did I plug this in? Ooh, that's no good. I'm going to try that again. Maybe the belt was... Actually, let's take this off and have a quick peek here. What's going on? And she's taking her time getting going, but once it gets going, the weight of the glass platter will take over and inertia will do it. All this motor's doing is keeping speed. So that's fine. Would you like to see what kind of speed this turntable's running at? I know how people love my paper. So like most Regas, it runs a little fast. I'm going to say probably 33.8 or something like that. It's definitely not 33.3. And that's the thing, Regas run fast. Do they do it on purpose? They must, because pretty much all of them run fast. Okay, phono. Very slow queuing, which is nice. Steps off the curb and into the street. That's all I can play. Does it sound good? Yes, it does. And that's the thing. Do Regas sound good? Yeah, they do. They sound good. It's the price to performance ratio that I think is not always the best with these turntables. There's very few turntables that sound really bad. And most of those are Crosleys or your plastic Audio-Technicas or Sonys or stuff like that, like the cheap stuff they were putting out a couple years ago. Any properly designed turntable should sound good. A lot of it has to do with the quality of the cartridge, obviously. The 2M Blue is a good cartridge. It's very bright, but very nice cartridge. And, I like to use this record because it has lots of good dynamic range. I know it's not going to come through on the YouTube compression, but to my ears, when I'm listening, when I do a record test on my system here, I know if it's sounding good or not. And this one sounds great. So we'll turn that off and we'll put this one to bed. This is how you service a Rega turntable. There's not a lot to it. Keep in mind those points. Use the correct lubricants, which is a gear oil. I recommend synthetic. Lubricate your motor, clean your belt, clean everything you have. When you're setting up your arm, you can definitely go buy this. It's not too far off, but I do highly recommend buying a digital scale if you have one, because it's a little bit more difficult with the Rega because there's no markings and they don't give you enough pointers on the weight to really dial it in. So I highly recommend getting a digital. Anyway, that's it for this one. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.